Welcome back. This is lesson number 2 of your first info product. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about the important topic of finding your target audience. We are going to help you identify your ideal customer for your info product. And it's very important that this is the first step in the process because it's going to help you create a better product. Your info product will be better because of it. It's going to help you better serve your audience. And so it's really important for your marketing of the product. It's really important for the creation of the product that you know who you are creating it for, that you know specifically who's going to be the buyer of your product. It will also increase your conversions when you're selling the product, which means you can sell a lot more when you do your sales copy. Also, it will help you better connect with your market, which is essential for your long term success. As people go through your program, if you're targeting the right people, the results that they get is also going to be dramatically increased. So you need to ask yourself first, where does your market hang out? Are they going to be in online forums? What forums are those? Or if you are going after people in the internet marketing crowd, of course you would go after the Warrior Forum. If you happen to be going after people in the bodybuilding space, think of those forums like bodybuilding.com. Where are those places that they are hanging out? The weight loss forums, totally different. Parenting forums, a lot of parenting magazines have forums, and the online forums. So think about where your customers where they are hanging out. Believe it or not, online forums are still very relevant and very new, and a lot of people still use them. Another up and coming tool that people are using is Facebook groups and Facebook pages. And as you know that your audience is liking these pages, they're participating in these groups. And so you need to go to where your audience is hanging out and identify what questions do they have. If you're going in the forums or the Facebook groups and you see questions that keep coming up repeatedly, then you know what kind of topics your audience is really looking for assistance on. And so it's going to help you better identify who your target customer is. Facebook is really good because you can do some simple browsing in groups and identify people based on, the gender of the people in the group, maybe their age by looking at the pictures, and just get like a sample size of looking maybe 100, 200 people, really identify who your market is, why they're on that page, what they're doing there as well. Look at the popular YouTube channels and see what kind of material they are covering. Every niche market, whether it's parenting, whether it's the sports niche market, whether it's dog training, pet training, the internet marketing niche market, whatever market you are targeting, there's a popular YouTube channel out there that you can identify, and you can see what kind of material they're covering, what makes them popular, why would people want to hang out there. Once you identify that, it's going to help you create a better product. Think also of stores do they shop at? Do they shop at, the younger stores because they're a younger audience you're trying to reach? What stores are they shopping at? Are they shopping at like Tuesday morning because it's the adults? Those types of topics are going to help you better identify what kinds of things they are doing, who your target market is. Also, looking at what books do they read? What books are they reading? So, if you're going after people in the self help space, you're going to look at people that are reading Robert Kiyosaki, maybe Tim Ferriss, maybe Tony Robbins. Those types of people are going to be the ones you're going to pursue. What TV shows do they watch? What kind of business related shows? If you start to think about that, then let's say you're watching TV and it's a particular show, like it's a sports TV show, and you can start to identify what commercials keep coming up. Once you see those commercials come up, you're going to see that they're targeting a very specific demographic. If you're watching the reality shows related to pets on the Animal Channel, you're going to notice a different type of advertisement that's going to show up there. Maybe you're watching conservative news TV, and you can actually watch the kind of commercials that show up there. A lot of them might be more business related, business oriented. Think of the celebrities they follow. You can kind of identify, who your target market, what their interests are. Really important is to look at the magazines they read, because it's in these magazines you can identify hot button points. You can actually research past covers from these magazines. So if you're in the fitness space, you can find, like women's health, and you could go into Google and do a search for women's health magazine covers and find the last 10 magazine covers related to, women's health, and actually see what main points they were highlighting in that particular issue of the magazine. So there's just so many possibilities here that you can do. Understanding your market, again, it's knowing exactly your exact target market, and you cannot successfully market and grow your business if you don't understand who your ideal customer is. If you don't know exactly who you're talking to, how can you expect to reach them? And so that's why this is lesson number one. It's really important. It's going to help you as you decide what traffic source you're going to use, how it's going to help you get better conversions on your sales page. And so to do this, we create what's called a customer avatar. So the customer avatar, and I'm going to take you through some of those lessons here of what a customer avatar is. And in a nutshell, the customer avatar is the ideal customer you're going for. Now, a lot of these questions are pretty elaborate, but the point of this little lesson here is to help you start to get your mind working so you really start to target and hone in and have a picture in your mind of who you're trying to reach with your info product, so then you can better sell to them on your sales page. So your customer avatar, you want to think about their demographics, think about, different things about them, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. Remember, you are creating the customer that you want to do business with the most, because if you're reaching the people you want to do business with the most, your business is going to be better because of it. You're going to be happier as well. Think of how old is your ideal customer. So, for example, if I'm in the parenting niche market and I have a product that teaches teenagers how to be safe on the internet, right? There's a lot of, things that are scary for teenagers on Facebook and social media accounts. So if I have a product that's targeting teenagers and teaching them how to be safe in a crazy world now, then my ideal customer is parents that are old enough to have teenage kids. I'm not going to necessarily reach out to parents in their mid 20s because they aren't going to generally have teenage kids. But I'm going to reach for those parents that maybe are in their mid to upper 30s, all the way up to maybe mid 50s, and those are going to be, my ideal customer is going to be in that range. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea there. And again, it's not saying that you need to identify and say, okay, all my customers are going to be 45 years old. That's absolutely not what I'm saying here. What I'm getting at is you need to identify a range. So as you're writing your product, as you're creating your video courses, as you're writing your sales copy, you have a picture of who that customer is that's reading it, your ideal customer, and that's going to help you reach the broad range of your customers. Are they generally male or female that's going to, be purchasing this? Are they generally a married couple? Like again, for the example of the keeping kids safe market online for teenagers, generally I'm going to be reaching the female market. They tend to be researching that. They're generally going to be upper 30s up to 40s, so probably about 45, let's say. What is their marital status? Most likely they are married, and so that's going to give you an idea. And for this example, we're going to keep saying he because that's just what we're pretending. We're using the male audience. Does he have children? In this case, of course, because it's the parenting market. How does he describe himself? So you can think of, how would this person describe themselves and think of themselves? Where does he live? Does he own or rent a house? Knowing these things is important because if you're identifying your market, it's going to help you with your price point as well. And again, some of these questions, just to point out, just so you understand, some of these questions are pretty in depth. And so if this doesn't apply to your market, you can just skip it. This lesson is not intended to hold you up. What it's intended to do is get you really thinking outside of the box more than you've probably ever thought about your target market, because it's so vital to your success. If you know who you're trying to reach, you're going to sell better, like we just talked about. What kind of occupation do they have? How long have they been with their current company? How much money do they earn a year? That's a really important point to know, because then that's going to dictate what kind of coaching programs you offer them as upsells, what kind of offers you package together. Think of things like what's their annual income, what's their highest level of education. Generally, the parenting market of people that are going to, be reaching the audience I want, they're going to have some college under their belt. They're generally, going through, maybe a business or some sort of school degree. They've got some success there. We can go. Consider more personal details to really help you get a better understanding. And think of these questions, these next questions, which are going to help you engage with your customers better. And it's going to be extremely useful when planning your marketing strategies and creating that content. So imagine what a typical day in their life is like, because once you imagine their typical day, it's going to help you better write your sales message. And we'll talk about writing your sales message later in these video lessons. So, how would they spend their free time? What are their hobbies and interests? Once you identify that, it's going to help you actually understand what group on Facebook to target potentially with ads, what group to target, what kind of magazines to target with your ads as well. What are their likes and dislikes? What books and magazines do they read? So being in the parenting market, it as that is the example niche we're using. What books would he or she read? The mom or dad read of those kids, and then how can we identify by looking at those magazines and seeing what kind of advertisements are running. What kind of music does he listen to? That's really important for you to figure out. What is he watching on TV is another thing to identify. So these are just some additional questions you can use to decide your target market. Are they active on social media? Which social media networks are they using? Are they using Snapchat? Are they using Facebook? Generally for the parents niche market, they're not going to be hanging out on Snapchat, but they might be hanging out on LinkedIn. They're most likely going to be using Facebook because that's kind of their market. Some might be using Twitter. So it's important to know because you can identify what traffic source you want to go after. How are they getting their news? What news stations do they watch on TV? What news websites do they frequent? What blogs are they reading? This is really important for identifying because if you're in like the parenting niche, there's certain blogs that a parent's going to be reading, going to be following. And again, once you identify these blogs, those might become potential affiliates for you. Those might be potential opportunities for you to actually create and publish content for those blogs as a guest writer, or for you to get an idea of what kind of topics they are getting from this blog source that makes them so important to them. Where do they go for their information? Keep that in mind. Think of what search terms they would be using. So that's where you can start to use the Google Keyword Planner. You can start to use, Google tools as well to identify keywords they're going for. And then think of, just these additional points here. Like if I'm going after parents, what are their biggest fears? And you can identify those fears because that's going to help you sell that product. And as mean as this may sound, one of the best ways to sell to people is to get them to be afraid and to help them realize that there is a fear going on. So as a parent, they're very afraid in this online world, for example, that their kids are not safe online. And so you want to really play into that fear and that reality of saying, hey, if you do not go through this training, this can happen to you or your kids. And so this is to help safeguard them and prevent them. And so if you don't want this to happen in your life, or you want to increase the chances that it does not happen, then this is the perfect product to help you do just that. So you can really help identify those fears. It's really important. Think of other topics like, are they health conscious? Do they spend more time at home or work? Tech savvy, what kind of sports do they like? That's going to apply for certain markets. Again, some of these questions may not apply to your market, but hopefully it gives you some ideas to think about. And just really be open about digging deeper to define your ideal customer's hopes and dreams. What makes them tick? What makes them get up in the morning? What makes them excited? And if you know those things, then you can target them better in your sales copy. It's going to enhance your customer profile, allow you to connect with them, most importantly on an emotional level. As soon as you start to connect with your audience on an emotional level, your sales copy is going to be increased. Your info products are going to have better impact on them. It's going to help them a lot better. So those are two very important reasons you need to do this. So the more details you can add into your research and identifying who they are, the better you're going to be. And think of those goals like, what are their business goals if you're going after them for business? What are their personal beliefs? Faith, what's their faith background? That's really vital as well in understanding, because there's certain ways you can create your sales copy depending on the faith that they subscribe to. What do they want to do more than anything? What are their biggest obstacles and challenges? Think of, we talked about the fears. What do they worry about? What keeps them up at night? Just like with the fears. If you really connect on that emotional level, again, you're going to help increase your conversions and your whole things. What are the three biggest problems in their life? How is his daily life affected by his problems? what would be the perfect solution to these problems. And just think of things like, how can your product or service help solve these problems? If you identify those big problems that they have, then you can easily present to them the perfect solution. It's going to help you in the next lesson, which is about outlining your info product. Because if you know the three biggest problems they're facing, you're going to have an effective product outline, which means you're going to start creating a very effective product. Then when it comes time to the sales copy, your product's going to already solve the three biggest problems that they have. What would be, those other scenarios to think about is, what is the greatest hesitation from them buying your product, and how is it going to make their life better? So once you identify who your ideal customer is, think through this topic: is how can my training make their life better? How can I make them a better person and a happier customer because of this? And use it to connect with your audience. Put yourself in their shoes every time you create content, your copy, or marketing material. It's going to help you move forward. That's why this is the first lesson, because if we can identify your market, we start to identify where they're hanging out, what websites they're using, and we can better understand what makes them tick. Use the language in their words, natural, be authentic. How do they speak? How do they interact with people? And that can dramatically help you as well. If you can master the art of feeling and thinking exactly how your customer does, you're going to be able to create marketing campaigns that resonate with him or her and make you a better marketer and a better selling. So the plan of action here is, let's start identifying your target audience for your info product, because in the next lesson, we're going to start to create our product outline. And it's going to be a lot easier to create that outline once you've gone through this exercise of understanding who your ideal customer is, really thinking of that, thinking about where they're hanging out online, because it's going to make you a better marketer and a better seller. And most importantly, you're going to create a better product that serves your audience better.